Hello, this is an update to the video I put out a few weeks ago where I debunked this claim that the COVID PCR test detects human chromosome 8 as COVID itself and gives a false positive result. So it's still very wrong, but I found out some very interesting information, the origin of the data. I can give you a bit more context as to why it is such a wrong claim. A little bit about the people that are making those claims, apparently well-respected people that should know better. And then I'll also go into some of the more technical with graphics, because before I was banging on explaining about it, where I want to show some graphics to make it a bit more understandable, that show the background and then the basis of it all. So as quickly as possible now. So this screen is the original statement on a blog website called Peace of Mindful by somebody called Fauxlex. I've actually corresponded with him since I made the video, and he now backs down. And his claim here that the COVID test detects human chromosome 8 as a false positive COVID result, he now understands that's not right, and he doesn't stand by this any longer. Reason being in that this sequence that he found that corresponds to a sequence in human chromosome 8 is only for one of the primers, where he now understands for a PCR reaction to work, for an RT PCR reaction to work, you actually need a forward and reverse primer plus a probe. Now I'll explain all that later, but just a little bit more about this first bit of misinformation that came out and how that snowballed into hundreds of thousands of people taking this all on board and thinking it's true. Now, so this is the first piece of information. Anonymous blogger, Fauxlex, still anonymous, but did correspond with me. Now, somebody I found, Amanda Vollmer, this is something that she put out.
What they are doing is calling our chromosome 8 primary assembly as the coronavirus.
So that's Amanda Vollmer. She's got a large following. Her video went viral, and the last time I saw it went up to about 125,000 hits on YouTube. And I found out past couple of days that's now been blocked, interestingly, but it's been reposted and it's still available. And that it didn't stop there. I mean, after that, I don't know if it was at the same time or before, this guy, David Icke, picked it up. And he did an interview with Dr. Andrew Kaufman, and this is what they said
about, well, many things, but starting out with this extraordinary revelation that part of the sequence that the PCR test is testing for is a natural sequence in everybody's human body. We'll find out now from the expert, but it seems to me that is one heck of a story. And I know, Andrew, when I mentioned it to you, you said you knew about it and that you were going to research this some more before talking about it. So give us your verdict.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for those nice words, David. And I knew this was a very significant thing, but I wanted to take my time and verify it and learn a little bit more about it before, speaking about it. As I told you before, I actually tried to do this kind of research back in April because...
Now what we have to note there is that he spent time, Andrew Kaufman here, he's got a molecular genetic degree, he knows better, he's a doctor of psychology, but he spent time there. He said, I've looked into this claim, and later on in the video you'll see the exact same screenshot from the Fauxlex website. So, this is not acceptable. Somebody that's got a very big following that it misleads people to such a large degree. It's just crazy. Here we go. Look, here we go. The same document. Now, this document is from the Pasteur Institute. Now, just a quick background about PCR. Now, PCR is not just one, or RT-PCR test is not just one test that everybody around the world is doing exactly the same test. There's lots of slight variations. Now this Pasteur test, this PCR test, this version of it with these particular primers, all the primers can be different and the probes can be different. Now this originates from back in January, where on the WHO website they published several documents. Now if you download this, there's this document here. So it's got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different PCR tests, all subtly different, all going for different target genes with different primers and different controls. And they picked up on this one. So just to reassure everybody, even if this does concern you, this is not the test that is used throughout the whole world. There's a whole load of tests, and these tests are fine. So this Pasteur method, it's not good practice to have a primer that matches up to human chromosome. Now, a lot of methods have a DNA digest right at the start of the method, so even if there is human DNA in there, that can be digested out. But it's just not good practice. But ironically, it might actually turn out that this is one of the better methods, even if it does match up. Now, even if this one primer does anneal to human chromosome, it does not result in a positive result, and I will explain that. But there's also another point in that this is an old method now, and current information shows that there are lots more PCR tests available that are approved, that don't have this not best practice set of primers. Now, what should we do next? So let's explain what Kaufman showed. This is the same video that Kaufman had on his video with Icke. And what it shows is that he explained the PCR test, which I'm sure a lot of you will understand already, where it shows here a strand of DNA with the primer that anneals, and here's the enzyme that creates a copy of the strand, and this goes on, and you get reaction after reaction, doubling and doubling, and you get lots and lots of copies, and then that's why you get a positive result, because you amplify the DNA. Now what Kaufman had forgotten, which it might be an honest mistake, he didn't talk about the probe that was listed on this document here. The probe, this 21 base pair probe, that includes a fluorescent marker on it. Now the probe, how does the probe work? Right, I'm just going to show you this to start with as well.
Polymerase chain reaction, or PCR.
Let me turn the volume off. That's double-stranded DNA. Now, COVID is a single-stranded RNA virus, but this does happen in the process of PCR eventually once the RNA is converted to DNA and then amplified. But this is showing you that the heat separates the strands of DNA which run in opposite directions, so you need a forward and a reverse primer because DNA is directional. The double helix run in opposite directions. So the primers have now annealed. Then you need the enzymes that will attach, and then the enzymes will make a copy of that strand using that strand as a template. And it does this over and over again to a maximum of 2 copies every reaction, so you get exponential, huge, rapid increase of DNA, lots and lots and lots and lots of copies. So I could jump straight to this actually. So you've seen the primers, you've seen the amplification, but the PCR machine doesn't detect directly that DNA. It relies on the probe. Now this is how the probe works that Kaufman completely forgot. So the probe, for a start, doesn't stick to human chromosome 8 for the PCR COVID test. But it's important for you to know what happens. So the probe attaches in between the forward and the reverse primers. Now, this is a probe. It's got a reporter marker. And if you shine a particular light at it, it will fluoresce a different color light. But it doesn't fluoresce if the quencher is there. It prevents it from fluorescing. So this is important. So at the start of the reaction, there's loads of this stuff, and it doesn't fluoresce. But as you get more and more and more and more DNA created, you get more of this cleavage event where the enzyme cleaves off the reporter and it fluoresces now because it's not touching or near the quencher. So this happens again and again and again and again. So the DNA gets amplified, but it's the reporter molecule that fluoresces because it gets cleaved off of the probe. So this shows what happens over, say, 30 cycles or 40 cycles. So you end up getting millions or tens of millions of copies. And this is a PCR machine. And this is a well plate. So there'll be lots of reactions all in these little holes. So this is how it works. You get some light that's shone through a filter, so a specific wavelength of light that's shone onto the wells and in real time. So throughout the whole cycle process, 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 30, 40 cycles, you're constantly looking for an increase in fluorescence. So this is how you get a positive result. It's the probe that gets cleaved to create the fluorescence. So going back to this, the strand of DNA. So for a start, there's only one primer. There's only one primer that would attach to human chromosome 8. So if you go to this part of the reaction, the primer would anneal to, say, human chromosome 8, but only on one side. So at each PCR cycle, you'd only get one copy, not two. So you wouldn't get amplification, wouldn't get exponential amplification of the DNA. You just get, every cycle, you just get one copy, one copy, one copy, because there's only one template there, or there might be several templates, but you won't get to up to the hundreds of thousands or millions of copies. And then anyway, the probe doesn't anneal to human chromosome 8. So even if it did, there wouldn't be enough fluorescence. But the probe doesn't stick anyway. So for two reasons, there's only one probe, the reverse one, so you only get one copy, so not enough DNA, and the probe doesn't stick. So there's no cleavage of that fluorescence molecule, so it never fluoresces. So you would never get a positive result because you need that reaction in the well plate. You need this little hole here to start fluorescing when you shine a light at it to get a positive result. It doesn't detect the DNA directly. So I hope this has been useful. That's 12 minutes. I did it as quickly as possible. I'm sure there's still loads of questions. There's still lots to say, but that's enough for now. I can produce another video if I get more questions. I've noticed lots of comments. So I think there's lots of misinformation, misunderstanding about PCR. So without going into chapter and verse and lecturing everybody, this is essentially all you need to know. It's not true. The COVID PCR test does not detect human chromosome 8.